Okay, everyone. So welcome to the weekly Wednesday coaching call. My name is Omar Pinto, your host. And today we're just going to dive right in and see if we can help out Ted. So Ted, how can we help you?
Well, I'm new to this meeting, never been at this meeting before, so I'm not aware of any rules.
So far, there
Yeah.
are no rules, surprisingly.
Good, good. I was going to go to a 5:35 AA meeting out here in Ann Arbor, and I just checked your schedule and I saw this one, and I thought I'd give this one a try instead. I'm dealing with something that may be a little bit well, no, I shouldn't say that. I'm trying to find my feet. I think that this time around, I've been trying to get sober for many, many years. I think it's beyond stopping drinking. I think that in order for me to find my footing, to build my life, basically, I think it will help me keep away from alcohol. I've found that a lot of meetings, people are struggling for years to stop drinking, which is fine. I certainly need to stop drinking, but I also need to find out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I think it's important to me to, well, like I put it, to find my footing. And I'm still basically looking around. I don't know what it is that I need to do. I mean, that I've heard in meetings before that a sober horse thief is still a horse thief, and the same man will drink again, and all kinds of stuff like that, you know. And I don't want to fall into the same ruts that I was in before that appears to have led me to drinking. I need to find my footing, and I need some help doing that. Thanks.
Okay, I got you. So my approach, the approach I like to take with this is that alcohol or any kind of controlled substance is the soothing mechanism or the remedy that many of us use to soothe ourselves from an unresolved emotional issue, some sort of trauma, some sort of wounding. So when we first start drinking and using, it does the job. It makes us feel better. It soothes us. It gives us that sense of ease and comfort that we so desperately need. Then it becomes a problem, and there's consequences associated with the drinking and the using. And we then go after the drinking. The drinking is the problem, so stopping drinking is the solution. But like you just said, a sober horse thief is still a horse thief. So how do we resolve this? So what is the longest amount of time that you have spent sober, Ted? 5 years, 5 months?
5 years, or yeah, 5 years.
Okay. And in those 5 years, what was your strategy for maintaining your sobriety for those 5 years?
Going to AA meetings.
Okay. All right. So for 5 years, it worked. So let's just use those 5 years as a bell curve. So when I first come in, I start here and I start feeling better and I start feeling better and I start feeling better. And then there's kind of like probably a peak that I reach. And then it's no longer working the way it used to work. Okay. So it's no longer as effective as it used to be. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'd say so, basically, yeah.
Okay. So what was it about the 12 steps that worked and what was it about the 12 steps that stopped working?
I think I was told to fake it until I make it,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is it's not being truthful to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, everything was basically beyond me and put into the hands of God. In other words, I didn't have any input into my own sobriety, which kind of bothered me. And I think I got to a point where going to meetings, I went to a meeting every day. Either I usually walk there. It's fairly close. It's only like about 4 miles to the Alano Club. I think I got more in the time that I was walking there and back than I was getting at the actual meetings, because it gave me an introspective time. And I didn't get that opportunity when I was in meetings. That just bothered me more and more as it went on, that everything was out of my control, that my best thoughts got me to where I was, and that I couldn't do anything about it. And I had to put my life and my thoughts into something bigger than me, which, I don't doubt that, but I think that I had some kind of input into the whole situation, and that concerned me.
Well, I'm very curious and very interested in this introspective time. So, in this time where you were on your own and allowing yourself to connect with self, is that accurate?
Yeah.
What kind of thoughts, feelings, conversations were coming up at those times?
I would take a look at my situation. I would know that I didn't want to be embarrassing myself or my family anymore. I wanted to reconnect with the people that I had basically turned off. And I was thinking about what I needed. I was thinking about what possibly I could do to make myself a little bit more viable within my own life. And I was thinking more of a solution to an issue that went beyond my consuming alcohol.
Okay. All right. So there is this desire to reconnect with your family.
Yeah.
All right. And where does that stand currently?
My wife is very supportive. I just recently got out of a detox situation on the 16th. So I'm 22 days without drinking anything.
Very good. And is it just your wife or is it other family members?
Well, I have a daughter who's I think she's like 28 or 29. I lose track sometimes. Sorry about that. And I sent her a Valentine's Day greeting that said I was thinking about her all the time. And then she came back with, "I'm a total idiot, and that I don't know how to love anybody, especially not myself. And I'm just a complete jerk." So I have to let that one go for the time being. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. So I have a daughter, and then I have a son who lives on the West Coast who is very vocal and talks to me every once in a while. So he's very supportive.
Okay. So you have one child that's supportive and one that is angry.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when was the first time you drank? How old were you?
16.
Okay. And what was that like for you? What were the feelings associated with that first drink?
I remember it was Schlitz malt liquor, and I hated it.
Okay. All right. One beer
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and you hated it.
Oh, couldn't stand it. It was in these little cans, and I could hardly get one down.
Okay. But somehow you found your way to another one somewhere along the lines.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I did. And to begin with, I guess drinking wasn't necessarily my problem per se. Once I hit about 18, it was more LSD.
Okay. So from 16 to 18, you dabbled in alcohol.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel a sense of euphoria, a sense of peace or calm, or did it ever do something positive for you?
Yeah, I think it always did. I was brought up a very shy person, and it gave me a way of speaking my mind, which I
Okay.
like.
So would you consider yourself introverted?
Definitely. Yeah,
Okay. So the alcohol kind of allows you to be a little more extroverted.
it used to, yes.
Okay. What does it do now?
I isolate. It makes me feel rotten, so I drink some more, hoping I'll feel better, and I drink
Mhm.
some more, and I feel even more rotten, and it just keeps going like that until I run out of money.
Okay. All right. So what was going on in your life at that time at 16 years old at home? How was the relationship with your parents? How was your relationship? How was your how was your relationship between your mother and your father? And how was your
Great.
relationship with them?
It was wonderful. It was great. No problems at all.
Okay, so great childhood.
Yep. No problems.
All
At
right.
least that I recognize.
And so at 18, you start dropping acid.
Yeah. That's when I moved from Chicago into the northwest suburbs of Chicago, and that's what was out there. That's what the kids were doing. So I joined in.
Okay. All right. So what was that experience like?
I loved it. It was much better than alcohol. I wanted to track how many trips I had actually taken, and I just gave that idea up after a couple hundred.
All right. Okay. So it was doing something for you. What was it? What was it giving to you that was beneficial?
An entirely different outlook on living, an entirely different world. Um, Tripping was just absolutely different until paranoia seeped in.
Okay.
Then, interestingly enough, I quit on a dime, no problem.
Okay. All right. And how old were you when you quit?
24.
All right. Okay. And when did alcohol make its reappearance?
I think it was somewhat a part of things, but it took me over when I was about in my 30s. You're really making me think here.
Well, there's a reason why you're still drinking and it doesn't serve you anymore. You
Mhm.
drink and you isolate and you run out of money and there's a cycle. You're
Yeah.
stuck in a cycle. So I need, the idea is to try and understand what it
Yeah.
is that you're trying to feel. So, you know, the alcohol did not do it for you. The LSD did. Then the paranoia kicked in, so it stopped working for you. Then right around that was around 24. Then you had like a 6-year period of time between 24 and 30. And
Yeah.
what was
I think I was mostly smoking pot
okay? All right.
until the uh, paranoia started creeping in on that, and I quit smoking pot just like that. No problem.
All right. So problems with the LSD, stop that. Problems with the pot smoking, stop that. For what reason do you think been you haven't been successful to stop the drinking the way you were with the other ones?
Oh, that's really interesting because I haven't got the slightest idea. I guess that's what I mean by trying to find my footing. I have no idea because they keep telling me to play the tape all the way through, you know, but the tape machine always gets clogged up or something. I never really play it all the way through. I know that I'm going to feel lousy, but it doesn't make any difference. I just do it anyway. And then sure enough, I end up feeling terrible. I feel like, at this last time, I just felt I was going to snuff it. I just thought that was going to be it. So, I thought the best thing to do is get into a hospital really quick and don't try to, quit it on my own, because from what I understood, you can quit drugs and just feel like you want to die. But if you quit alcohol, you actually can.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is very true. So I have some information here. I have some information here, right? And so there's certain things that you have done in your life that you've been able to quit successfully. And here's one aspect of your life that you have been unsuccessful at quitting, which means it's giving you something that the other ones did not.
I wish there was a way that I could give you a decent answer for that, because any answer that I give you will sound absolutely ridiculous.
Try me.
One of the answers would be, it's alcohol is very available to me.
Mm-hmm.
If I have the money, all I have to do is go down to the local party store and I can get it. So when I drive to work or semi-work, I must pass 8 or 9 or 10 different places I could stop and pick something up. So it's always there. It's always available to me. With the pot, it's starting to be more available, but I couldn't care less.
All right. So I'm trying, most of the time, alcohol or a controlled substance will serve as a soothing remedy. Is there anything in your life that you are trying to soothe currently?
Well, I don't know, because I have this talent of being able to push things back in my head. If things bother me, I just put it way back and I don't even think about it. It's kind of like when I get hurt physically, the best way that I know how to deal with pain is just to ignore it. And ignore it and it goes away. And I guess at times I've been known to have things that bother me that I just put them off into the back of my mind. I just don't think about them. I think that's one of the reasons why I can't tell you what my triggers are for drinking, because it's way, way back there somewhere. I'm reacting on it, but I don't realize it.
Okay. So, Ted, there's your body and your mind, very, very sneaky. Okay. So they have repressed and suppressed whatever it is that is creating all this emotional discomfort. So, whatever trauma or wounding or issues have happened in your past, they are so painful and so delicate that there's a block. But here's the thing, we're humans and we can only hold on, we can only suppress and repress for so long. So, after a certain amount of sobriety, these feelings, thoughts, and emotions will start to come to the surface. And as soon as they start to make their way to the surface and I start to feel something, I start to connect with something that is uncomfortable, at some point, I will want to repress and suppress them again. But in a state of sobriety, it's very difficult. When I'm drinking, it's real easy to suppress, numb, escape, avoid, and I will drink myself into a stupor. And then what I will do is I will focus all my energy again on getting sober, which is a yet another distraction, and again prevents me from focusing on my root cause issues. So unless we can identify something that we can say, aha, we have something here that still causes a tremendous amount of pain and discomfort. It could potentially be, my daughter thinks I'm a complete jerk and wants nothing to do with me. Okay. And so there's actions and behaviors associated with that, which could be provoking guilt and shame. But maybe I don't want to address the guilt and shame I feel from some of my past behavior. So I block it out. I repress it and suppress it. And so this is going to just be a constant, Ted. This is going to be a constant sort of merry-go-round or hamster wheel. If I don't get an opportunity to resolve this trauma and this wounding. So as I say this to you, what's going on inside your body?
What's going on inside my body?
Yes.
I feel quite relaxed, actually.
Okay.
I think I'm getting a sense of someone honestly trying to give me good information to help. And that makes me feel relaxed and very open to what you have to say.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Let's see if we can peel another onion layer back. Let's see if we can go a little bit further. What inside of you is either accessible, or are you open to discuss?
Well, as far as open to discuss, I'm open to discuss pretty much anything. You know, I can tell you when my daughter initially turned me off, or at least when I thought she did. I haven't spoken to my other brother in years, my older brother in years. And I'm open to talk about those two things at any time at all.
Let's try that. Let's try your brother. What happened with your relationship with your brother?
Well, when we were living together, we never fought. So there was something wrong there. Brothers who never fight, there's something definitely wrong there. We got along just great. If we had verbal disagreements, we had to apologize real quick. But I've always had the feeling that there was something amiss with my dear and darling brother that made me ashamed of him ever since I can remember, ever since I was a little kid. And you can see it in some of the pictures of us, you know, oh God, there goes Dennis again. And at one point in time, I thought it was just me who thought that. But then one of my friends came up to me and said, "Is your brother okay?" And oh man, I was just so relieved. I felt so relieved. I told him I thought I was the only one. I thought I was the only one that thought he was nuts. I've tried to repair the bridge that was smoldering. I had given him gifts that he just totally had nothing but negative reviews for. And I finally just gave up. You know, I finally just pushed it back into my thinking so far that I don't think about him too often, but when I do it, it's pretty strong. It's pretty strong. He's a successful guy. He's a computer programmer. One of the things that really bothered me about him was when he started learning computer code, you couldn't talk to him. You had to tell him where all of the punctuation was, period. If you didn't, comma, he would not know, or pretend that he wouldn't know what you were talking about, period. And you had to keep on like that. You had to just keep telling him where all the punctuation was in order for him to understand what I was talking about. Now, in taking some courses on coding, I understand that, because periods and commas mean a lot, but it didn't mean a lot at the time when just talking to him. Like, I don't have to tell you every time I put in a period. But he goes way beyond that. I mean, he does some things that are just downright embarrassing. So, and like I say, I've tried to put a well-meant handshake across the water, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I've given up on that.
So he shut you out.
I think we shut both each other out.
But he was first.
You know, it's hard to say. I don't. You see, I feel that My mother and father gave a very loving household. My brother feels like all of his problems are their fault. So it's like we were brought up in different families, but you know, I don't know. I don't know who off first. I really don't know.
And what is his interpretation of your childhood?
Oh, it's miserable. It's terrible.
What happened?
Nothing I can think of.
What does he say happened?
Well, we were both graduates of Lane Tech High School, and so one time I gave him a Lane Tech alumni shirt, and he said, "Oh boy, you know, high school was so terrible for me. There's no way I can wear that T-shirt. It's going into the back of the closet if it goes anywhere at all, and I just might throw it out." So I also know that he took guitar lessons at the Old Town School of Folk Music. So I gave him a key fob that was from the Old Town School of Folk Music. Oh, that was a terrible time. I'll never use that. I don't use picks. You know, I have no place for that. It was just not a good time for me, and he never used that. So you know, it's difficult. It's a difficult situation.
So you have tried to reach out to your brother on multiple occasions and it has been unsuccessful.
Correct.
So when that happens, what are the feelings associated with that?
Well, at first I just get frustrated. I just figure, oh, there's Dennis again. And then afterwards I think, well, am I missing something? You know, I'll think like that. You know, does this have to do with me? And it probably does. I mean, because I mean, he rents a big part in my head. And it's probably, you know, he probably doesn't even realize that. It's all up to me.
So is there any sort of guilt or shame associated with your relationship with your brother on your side?
I think so, because I still talk to his kids, my nieces and nephews, and we get along just fine. But there's just this logger jam when it comes to my brother, and yeah, of course I feel like I'm a part of the problem. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't even have brought it up if I didn't think I was part of the problem. I mean, I have a place in it all. So.
Do you miss him?
Oh, absolutely. He's my older brother.
Okay. So I want you to just kind of sit with this for a minute, Ted, because sometimes the things that are the most obvious, we take for granted. And here's two brothers that live together for how long did you guys live together?
Well, heck, up until he got married. So it must have been at least 25, 26 years, something like that.
Okay. So here's two brothers that never fought,
Right.
lived together for 25 years, had a very strong relationship.
Yeah.
And then from one moment to the next, there is a rift and there's no specific reason for it.
Well, I do know that when he did get married, we didn't know anything about it. He just came over with his then wife and said he was married. She stood outside of our home and told my brother what to take out of the house. But at first I thought that maybe she was the problem, but she really later on tried to get us back together. And one time it actually did work. She actually paid for us to come out from the Chicago area to California, which was no cheap deal. And she tried her best to put us together, but it just doesn't work with my brother and me. It just doesn't work. I end up reading them the riot act, and everybody says, "Boy, nobody can say it as good as you do," you know. And I don't feel real proud of what I'm doing. I feel, you know, I don't want to be telling my older brother that he's a jerk.
And so what do you really want to tell him?
Boy, that's a good question. Of course, I want to tell him, how I feel about him. I've always loved him. I've always cared about him. I always, thought he was, I always thought he was crazy, but, love can conquer that kind of stuff. Love can conquer that feeling. I just like to tell him, hey, let's just put down the facades and let's just, talk to each other. That's what I'd like to tell him. But he doesn't hear that. I've tried it.
So there's this part of you that is deeply hurt, is very close to his brother. There's a facet of you that's very close to your brother. And you miss him, you miss that relationship, you love him, you care for him, and you miss him. You want that relationship back. And you've tried on numerous occasions. His wife has tried, to no avail.
Correct.
And it's so frustrating that you, instead of telling him, hey, bro, I love you and I miss you, and how do we work this out? Why are you being a jerk? Why are what's your problem? And so there's things that you want to say and they're coming out differently. So I'm curious how maybe that has manifested with your relationship with your daughter. Are you still married?
Yeah, 44 years.
Okay. And was it the drinking that caused the rift between you and your daughter, or was it something else?
I'm sure that was a part of it. I used to keep small bottles of alcohol in the garage in bags, and one time my daughter had written something on one of the bags, please stop drinking, it's starting to affect me, and I just, crumpled up the bag, threw it away. So that was probably the beginning of it. I've fallen down the stairs in front of her, which I'm sure didn't help matters any. And I think the Fils de Resistance, the one thing that really did it is my daughter's a lesbian, and her partner is very Black. And they were over to the house once, and I was going up to bed. And I kissed my wife goodnight. I kissed my daughter goodnight, but I didn't quite know her friend enough to kiss her goodnight. So I patted her on her little black head.
Oh, man.
And that didn't go over so well. She just screamed at me. She said, "Don't you ever do that again." I was aghast. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I just, turned around and went upstairs. I later called her and apologized for it. And that's when she told me that I needed to see a psychiatrist, and I hung up on her. So that was the end of that.
So
now, the thing is, she's probably right. I do probably need to see a psychiatrist, because just talking to you is really great. And it's changing my mind quite a bit. I think that's one of the things I need for putting my feet on the ground, but I don't need someone who doesn't know me telling me that I need to do that.
Ted, really what is so needed for many of us is a sacred space, an opportunity for someone that has no agenda other than to help, and the ability to hold space for you and ask the right questions. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to draw a version of Ted out that's very heavily guarded. There's a version of Ted that is very guarded, is very closed off, is very afraid. He's been hurt and he's hurt other people. He doesn't trust others. He doesn't trust himself. And so it's easier to isolate. When we don't trust ourselves and we don't trust others, it's easier to isolate than to put ourselves at risk, or potentially risk hurting the ones we love. So is your relationship with your daughter another relationship you would like to heal?
Another good question, because I think at this point in time, Maybe I've just pushed things back so far that I don't even care. I don't even care. But I am doing things out of somewhat spite. Her girlfriend is a musician, plays the guitar. I have quite a few guitars. She's not getting one of them. I give them to my son. He's just starting off. So, it's touchy. I don't know. It's like the deal where I don't know what my triggers are. Of course, she's my daughter, for Pete's sake. There was a point in time where she could do no wrong. She could shit all over me and I didn't care. It was beautiful. Now if she says something, sideways to me, it offends me. So I don't know.
So we have two unresolved relationships that could be provoking uncomfortable feelings and emotions that will catch you off guard, especially if you have them so far suppressed and repressed that you're not even prepared for a trigger.
Right.
So if it happens, it most likely will provoke you to just run to a bottle because I can get to it fast. I can pay for it quickly. It's accessible everywhere. And I know that even though the consequences are going to be bleak, at least in the beginning, it's going to give me what I need. I need some relief. Does that at all sound accurate?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
So, Ted, here's what I feel is this is just the beginning. This is just the tip of the iceberg with you and I, like as we're kind of coming in and I can feel that it's very delicate. So I want to respect that. I want to respect that delicacy and I want to respect, the feelings associated with even discussing this. Right. But just based on everything, and I know that the first question was, I want to get my footing. I want to get my footing in sobriety. Okay. So with the footing, it feels as though this would do some tremendous good for you. Therapy, counseling, an opportunity to sit with someone and just talk, just open up. The only thing that's necessary is for you to feel safe and for you to feel that you're safe. I think that that's the most important thing, that feeling safe to be vulnerable and to be open, it's obviously helping. So now as we've kind of brought all this stuff out into the open, okay, so I've gotten to know you. I know there's two relationships that definitely are causing some discomfort in your life, there's negative feelings and thoughts associated with these two relationships. Is there something further that I can help you with?
I would say yes. I don't know what your background is. I don't know, where you come from, as it were. But you're the first one who's ever touched on anything that is really meaningful to me. I mean, it's ringing a bell. It's ringing a bell. Yeah, I'd like to talk more, but I feel a little bit guilty because there's Erica and Mike and Leo and Eric and Antoinette and Kathy who aren't even able to talk right now because this isn't about me.
This isn't a regular recovery style meeting. Okay, this is a coaching call. So usually it's one person.
I had no idea.
Today it's you, Ted. And guess what, Ted? It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Okay. Most people show up to these calls not to be in your position, to be in theirs. They like to be the observers. They like to watch. It helps them. It helps them. So while I help you, it helps them. See, Antoinette just gave the thumbs up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so as we continue, as we continue to almost unpack this a little bit more, I feel compelled to push a little bit further when it comes to your daughter. And I know that there's areas there that there's a part of you that feels a little bit, possibly a little bitter, maybe a little frustrated, a little angry, a little resentful, but she's your baby. She's always going to be your baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've often told her that. What's interesting, what I find to be very interesting in how I'm reacting to this whole thing is I believe that the cutoff point had to do with a Black person. And you know what I'm reading these days? You know what I'm strictly reading these days? Toni Morrison and James Baldwin. I think James Baldwin is fantastic. He's a gay Black man. Very, very important. Toni Morrison is an award-winning writer, and she's Black. And it's like, that's all I'm reading now. And I'm finding it absolutely fascinating. Toni Morrison is a little bit difficult to get into at first, but James Baldwin just puts it right out there in front of you.
How did you come to start reading those?
Boy, I'd have to give that some thought. I don't know why I started reading James Baldwin. I know I read The Fire Next Time is one of his books that was just so to the, I mean, it made me realize that the Black experience in the United States is totally different from the way that I was brought up. I mean, I had to read more of him to find out more, and I think it's Antoine's Room or something like that I'm reading right now. It's about being a gay Black man. Actually, it's about being a gay white man. He was writing it. So I'm trying to find, it seems like I'm searching out things that I haven't known before, but I don't know what brought me to James Baldwin. I really don't know.
Okay, so I want you to listen to me because I'm going to narrate something to you, okay? And let's just see how it lands for you. You ready?
Yeah.
I want you to imagine that the same forces, the same part of you, because we all have different parts. We have the inner child, we have the inner warrior, we have different archetypes that live inside of us. And there's a facet of you that may have been quick to judge your daughter, may have been quick to judge her partner. And there's a part of you that wants to make things right, wants to reconnect. That's why I asked you, how did you come across these books? The answer was, I don't know. So chances are that there is a version of Ted that is very, very soft, very, very delicate, very, very loving, very, very caring. And it knows that right now the most important thing is to try and create that bridge back to his daughter. And the only way to be able to construct that bridge is to have common ground. And before you know it, you're reading books about gay Black men. And so something tells me, there's this feeling that I get that you're really trying here, Ted. There's a version of you, there's a part of you that desperately wants to reconnect and have a relationship with your daughter, and it knows that this is the only way in. And it wants to embrace this. It wants to embrace her. It wants to embrace her partner. But there's another part of you that's just not quite ready yet. So the struggle is internal, not external. There's an internal battle between the old Ted and the new Ted, or the antiquated Ted and the progressive Ted. I don't know. I just know that there's a version of Ted that is willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild that relationship with his daughter. And he's already making those first steps, those first strides. As I say that, how does that land for you?
I can relate to it.
So, what do you think then when we talk about your footing and your foundation in sobriety, based on what we discussed? What do you think one of your first steps could be?
Well, it's making me think that I'm really not being honest with myself, that I'm pushing things so far back that I'm not dealing with them. And I know the answers, but I just refuse to look at them.
Well done, Ted. Well done. Well done. And I think you know what needs to happen for you to reestablish your relationship with your daughter.
Well, the other part of me thinks, yeah, I know exactly what I need to do. I need to crawl on my hands and knees back to her and beg her for forgiveness, and I won't do it.
That wasn't my thought, but I like the stream of consciousness. Thank you for that. Okay, that's not what I was thinking. What could be a second option?
I honestly, right now, do not know. I don't know.
Have you ever worked the ninth step, Ted?
Well, in a way, but I feel that the way that I've looked at any of the steps in the past has not been totally correct. So I think, to be honest, I'd have to say probably not.
So there's another approach that doesn't involve groveling and crawling on your hands and knees. And that involves developing a relationship with her girlfriend. I don't know which one of those is more painful at this moment.
I don't know. It's
I want you to think for a moment. I just want you to stop for a moment, and I want you to think what it would mean to your daughter for you to try to mend the relationship with her girlfriend. What do you think that would mean to her?
Oh, it would mean everything, I'm sure. Because I know that if, I can feel the way that I feel about my wife of 44 years, but if anybody ever says anything to me, that even comes close to how I feel about her in a negative way, I'd smack them around.
She comes from you, Ted.
Yeah, I know.
She's your daughter. She's probably a very close version of you. And so the same way you are with your wife is probably the same way she is with her girlfriend. And there is nothing that a child wants more. And I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what anyone says. There is nothing that a child wants more desperately than the love, approval, and acceptance of their parents. It means everything. So, Ted, I think I believe, and this is just my own interpretation of what's happening right now, but as far as getting your footing and establishing a strong foundation, there's a couple of things here right off the bat. And number one is reestablishing, or not even reestablishing, actually establishing a relationship with your daughter's girlfriend. Really giving the 12-step fellowship a shot. Really like doing the work, because I did this work 18 years ago. 18 years ago, I got myself a sponsor in Narcotics Anonymous, and I worked the 12 steps in the 12-step and then in Narcotics Anonymous 12-step working guide. We worked on that thing together for 4 years. Now, for most people, it takes about 2 years. But I enjoyed this. We would meet every single week, just him and I. Every single week, every Monday, we would sit and we would go over my answers. And if the answers weren't correct, or I was in denial or didn't understand the question, he would give me some suggestions, and I would go back and I would redo them. That single-handedly, that 4-year period of time did more to heal me than almost anything else that I've done in my life up until that point. It was the work that I needed to create that very necessary foundation and footing in sobriety that I needed, because I never drank again. So there is this very needed work and this vulnerability and this connection. It's not going to happen with your brother, but it could happen with your daughter. And I am confident that the feelings that will arise if you are able to be successful in this, if you are able to make amends to her girlfriend, and to establish a relationship with her, the relationship that you will have with your daughter will withstand the test of time moving forward. And there's no amount of money that you can put on that. What's coming up for you now?
Well, I'm wondering how to start in a process like that. I would have to agree. I mean, if I were to create a relationship with the person that my daughter loves, I'm sure that would just say volumes. But I honestly, I wouldn't know what the first step would be. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to start.
Well, I love what Antoinette wrote down here. Apologize for patting the woman on her head. Never touch a black woman's hair.
That's what I understand.
I think in general, most people would not like being patted on the head, right? Regardless of the intention, it is something that is inappropriate. So there's your first step right there, Ted. There's your one first step. You could say it to your daughter, but it would go a lot further if you said it directly to her girlfriend. And it would sound something like this. What's her name?
Alexandria.
Hey, Alexandria. First of all, I would just like to apologize for being inappropriate. And second of all, for being inappropriate and patting you on the head. I'm not quite sure what I was thinking, but it went horribly wrong. And I would very much like to try and make amends for that. That's it. Nothing else. And you just wait for her response. She might say, hey, Ted, go fuck yourself. Or she might say, that's a good start. Let's try. How does that sound?
It sounds interesting. But the major part of me wants to say that you would just tell me to go fuck myself, which, you know, there's nothing I can do about that, can I?
No, there's nothing you can do to control her response or her reaction. But I'll tell you what, even if she does, she is going to be thinking about this nonstop.
I agree. I agree with that.
Give yourself a chance, Ted. Give yourself a chance. This is a real chance at sobriety. This is a real chance at healing that relationship. This is a real chance to feel good. Because I know it's been a long time since you felt good.
That's true.
All right. So this was very unexpected and very powerful. Ted, thank you so much for
Thank you.
just being vulnerable and open and honest. I really appreciate it. The rest of us do too. Does anyone have any love or support they want to give on to Ted? This is pretty deep.
I will.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for being so open, Ted. You know, I just think back, I'm the oldest of 8 siblings, and there's always a squabble there. And just to hear you say that kind of made me bring back that, you know, there's times that I just leave them do what they need to do and I live my life. But I also have a daughter that I quit using when a granddaughter was born. And that's what gave me the reason to quit, because I didn't want to ruin that relationship. And I've been sober for almost 19 years.
Oof.
And it all started with going AA and working those 12 steps. I had to find a sponsor I could go to, like Omar said, every day or every
week,
once a week.
Yep.
And find somebody I felt safe with. And I spilled my guts out too. And I got rid of a lot of shit. Not saying that it's all gone, but it helped me immensely. And just really good to hear your story. It really brought me back. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mike. It's beautiful. All right. Anyone else? I think we're good. All right. How about another applause for Ted? That was good. That was good, brother. Sending you a lot of love, my friend. A lot of fun. A lot of love.
Yeah.
And I know you can do this, Ted. I know you can do this. I have all the faith in you. All right, everyone. We will see you next week. Thanks again for joining. All right. Love you all.
Thanks, Omar.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Ted. Thanks, everyone.